Hello everyone, welcome to another Bubble Talk. I hope you guys are having an amazing week. Yes, we are back. We are back in the studio, so I'm super happy about this. For those of you who joined us for the last 2 weeks, I was in the hotel giving the Bubble Talk and the Taco Tuesdays inside the hotel, but back to where I should be, so very grateful and thankful for all of you here. Shout outs to Jason, David, and Cootie Sue, Chris over there in New Zealand. Thank you so much for joining us early on Facebook and YouTube. What are you guys drinking? What are you guys drinking? I'm drinking something, it's called lemon plum kimun tea, and it's okay. It's not that good, but it's okay. What are you guys drinking? Just pop it in the room to see what are you guys drinking right now. I just want to see how you guys are doing. So, what we're going to do first is, it's been a while for me being back in the studio, so we're going to first look at the winners from the previous week for the bubble tea winners. And the winners are from Malaysia and the Philippines. There you go. I believe that is Yvonne and Hannah. Cool. And of course, everyone, today we're giving away some more free bubble tea, so just hold on tight until the very end. We're gonna have some really easy, cool questions for you guys to win some bubble tea. Also, any moment, even right now, if you have any questions, just pop them in, right? Pop them in the chat room. You guys can chat. You guys can talk during the talk. You can talk. Right? During the talk, you can type, if there's something like you really like, wow, I really enjoy this. I know that the Filipinos are very expressive at least in the YouTube room, they're super expressive. So anyone, just be expressive. Questions, throw them in. Anytime you're inspired, just chuck in the questions as much as you can, okay? So today, what is our topic? Today's topic is taking charge of your life. All right, so grab your bubble teas, your coffees, your teas, your dinners, or whatever you have right now, and we are going to begin today's 34th Bubble Talk. All right, so let's get into taking charge of your life. Now, here's the thing. So let's talk about, in most times of your life, people feel in control, right? They feel like they're in charge, right? It's very rare. It's a very, very few times in life you actually feel like you're not in charge, right? Because you set the time you want to wake up, and if you don't want to wake up at the time that you set, you can go back to sleep, right? You make the decision, you make the choice. You get to choose the food that you eat, you make choices, decisions, you get what you want, and most of life is in control, right? You don't feel threatened, you don't feel like you're out of control. Now, interesting thing is very, very few times in life, right? Very few times in life, you really, really, really feel helpless. You feel like you're out of control. There's no direction in life. You don't know what decision to make. Things happen. You had nothing to do with it, but it completely affects you. And it's like, these are all things that I didn't do. I didn't even want this to happen, but it just happened. No! And then people freak out and they think, what would I do with my life? Why is my life like this? It happens all the time, right? And it's not majority of your life, it's just these few moments in your life. And the reason why these very, very few moments we feel helpless and out of control and we're not really in charge of our own life at that moment is because it's at those times that are super important, right? They're those big decisions that set a path for the rest of your life or for a long time. And this is why most of your life is easy. Because the hard part is making a decision to set the path, but then just actually riding out the path and doing the path, that's super easy, right? If you choose to be an engineer, all from that point on, you're just studying hard and picking engineering subjects. If you're gonna choose a certain job, you choose the job, you get the job, and all you do is start working in that area. It's a lot easier to take the path than to actually choose a path. And that's why these great moments of decision in our life are usually the moments we feel not in control. We're not sure what to do. We're not sure what direction to take. We're not sure if this is the right path for my life. And it's hard because when you make that decision, you have to make that decision something that leads you for a very long period of time. And that's something that's not easy. So, what does that mean? What do we talk about today? Because that decision in that moment sets the rest of your path and your course for the next long while, Whether it's your major, the school you choose, the job you choose, the job you change, the family, friends, right? There's a lot of things that happen in life that we have nothing to do with. Like I'm sure like when it comes down to people who, where your boyfriend or girlfriend breaks up with you, you didn't want it. It's they made it happen and you're like, no! And you're like, why is life like this? You didn't do it and you didn't want it. So, I'm going to tell you something very important is, like I said before, most of the time of your life, you are in control. And during those times when you're just riding on the path you've chosen, you have like these small blips. These small blips in life, and life is fine. These blips are okay. They're small because it doesn't really change your path, right? It doesn't destroy you. It doesn't make you feel lost, right? Like, for instance, you go to this famous, like, nasi lemak shop, and then they sold out of nasi lemak, but your life isn't over, right? It's not destroyed. Or you went to buy some clothes, but the color you want is not there. Or the size you want is not there. Or the internet goes out for an hour. This is not life-destroying. Well, for some people, if the internet goes out for an hour, it's life-destroying. But I'm assuming you guys are okay and normal, okay? So there's a lot of things in life, these small blips that happen, it doesn't really affect us. We're like, yeah, it's not a big deal. But it's the big things. It's the big blips. Right? The big blips are the ones that are life-changing and life-affecting. For instance, just look at right now. Pandemic. People losing jobs. Some people's parents, mom or dad are losing jobs. Or your family loses their entire business, their entire life savings. Some people get really anxious, depressed, and people have mental illnesses. Some people are getting fired from their jobs. Like, even though it's a part-time job, you were relying on that for your pocket money, but you don't get that. Or like we talked about, there's breakups and stuff too, or people die during this time. These are all big things. These are life-changing things, right? And what we're going to talk about today is how to take charge of your life in those moments, right? In those very, very few but decisive moments in your life, how do we take charge? So I'm going to give you 3 tips. Like usual, we're going to go over 3 tips today to help you take charge of your life, okay? So when you're losing control, 3 things we're going to talk about. Number 1, first one is you need a foundation. Right? You need a foundation in your life. Now, what the heck does that mean, foundation? Like, well, foundation just sounds like, when you have a house, you have a foundation so it doesn't shake. And that's what life needs to be like too, right? Just like a house needs a very strong base and a foundation, so whatever happens, the house doesn't shake. The stronger the base, the more stronger the house is. Which means that in life, you need a foundation to stand upon. Right? Which means what? It means a purpose and a reason why you live or why you do what you do. There's got to be a reason behind it. You can't just do things, right? There's bigger things than a job, right? There's bigger things than your school. There's a bigger things than friends. There's much bigger reasons and things that are going on in your life. There's got to be something bigger than this, right? It's about who you are. It's not about what you're doing, right? Because many people can do the exact same thing, but why is it impactful for some and not others? Is because it depends on who's doing it, right? What kind of person they are, right? You need a reason to live. You need a reason to fight on. If job is everything, what happens? What happens if you lose your job? You have nothing left. This is why people commit suicide. If your job is everything in your life, the moment you lose it, there's no point of living because that was everything. You have to have something bigger and greater. Or else it leads to suicide, depression, anxiety, just so many mental illnesses happen, or people go through so much pain because they don't have anything bigger than what they're doing right now. There has to be something bigger than that. If you look at Matthew chapter 6, verse 25, great verse. It says, don't worry. Don't worry about your life, what you're eating or drinking, about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more important than the food and the body more than clothes, right? So it's kind of putting things into priorities, like what's more important. And you have to realize, you have to start looking at the things in your life and start prioritizing which one's better, right? Because even if you lose your job, you didn't lose your life, right? If you have a family, like you can lose your job, but you still get another job. You can still support your family. There's a lot of things you can still do, but you can't think that that's the end. There are things bigger than your job. There are things bigger than your school, bigger than your exams. They're much, much bigger. You need to have that hope, right? That belief in something greater, right? And that's why for like myself, for me, the belief in something greater is my faith. I have faith in God, which is so much greater than all things, that everything is okay. Like if things don't happen, it's not as bad as it is, right? It's not that bad. Some people, guys, we have to believe in something greater, right, than what you're doing right now. Your belief can't just be in you being a salesman. That is not a higher belief. You need to have a foundation, something greater than what you're doing right now. What's the second thing? Second thing we're going to talk about is control what you can. Okay? Now, what does that mean, control what you can? Now, controlling what you can means there's only one thing that really needs control. Like, I'll give you an example, okay? The thing that needs control more than anything else, we'll take a look at another Bible verse. It's Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. Very, very interesting verse here. It says that, above all else, guard your heart. Everything flows from your heart. It's all up here, guys, right? Whenever I talk, all these things have to do with what's going on up here in your mind. Let's think about this carefully. People say, oh, I've lost control. But honestly, did you ever have control in the first place? Let's give an example. The pandemic. Did you ever have control of it? Were you the one saying, you know what? Yes, I will make the pandemic happen. You don't have control of it, right? You don't have control. But then you say you lost it, but you can't lose it when you don't have it. Where's the problem? It's all up here first, right? You lose, what about people? Can you make people do things? And the answer is, you can't. You don't control people. The only people you control is yourself. You don't control anyone, right? That's why we get frustrated. We get frustrated with our children because when they don't listen, right? Because it's out of your control now. You're frustrated. But if you're in complete control, you'd never get frustrated because you're the one telling them mad, angry, frustrated. Okay, cry on the ground, inside the supermarket until you get your chocolate. All right, keep doing, like if you're controlling it, you never get upset because you're the one actually doing it. We get upset, we get hurt, we get angry. Why? It's all up here. It's all up there, right? It's an we can't be disillusioned and think that we were actually in control in the first place. All these things happening, we never had it. Control what you can. There are many things in this world that you don't control, right? And we should realize this normally. So what can you control? We'll go back to that Bible verse again. The only thing you can control is yourself. It is your thoughts, right? It's your thoughts that go wild. It's your thoughts that go bouncing up and down. Haven't you ever, you got to think about this. You know it's your thoughts that are the thoughts that have a big problem. Do you know why? How do I know it's your thoughts? Think about it. When you start your diet, you're strong. You pass by the candy aisle. You don't buy it because, yeah, I started my diet. But give it 2-3 weeks and you walk past the same aisle with the same chocolate and you give in. Why? What's giving in? It's not like the chocolate changed or the candy changed where it's like, ooh, come buy me now. Yeah, I'm more tempting now. It doesn't do that. It's the same chocolate. It's the same candy. What's changed? It's all up here. You got to guard your heart, right? Guard this part of you more than anything else. You got to control your thoughts. And if you can do this, what happens is if you realize and understand what you can control and what you can't, when things go out of control, then you control yourself to resolve what's going on. Why? Because I know I had nothing to do with it. Pandemic happened. What do we do now? Got to do it over the internet. That's fine. That's fine. So you find a better way. You find a better way. You find a better way. And you get it done. You see, the most inspiring people in the world are not the ones who, when things go wrong, they're like, it doesn't work. Who are the people inspiring is when it's the worst thing possible happens, they think about it, they control their minds, and then they overcome this great, great tribulation, this great hardship, and they become successful. And everyone looks at them and says, bravo, bravo, that is amazing. These are inspiring people. Control what you can. What can you control? You can't control people, can't control the weather, you can't control a pandemic. You can only control yourself and how you deal with those situations. Last thing, third tip. Third tip of the day is you need to realize, guys, everything is a risk. Everything is a risk, right? And why am I saying this? Okay, I'm going to tell you this cool Bible verse that I stumbled upon. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 6. It says, "Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle, for you do not know which will succeed." whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. We don't know. Honestly, every single thing we do is risky. There is a risk in everything. You got to think about this very carefully, right? When we say, oh, don't gamble. Honestly, you're gambling every day with different things. Do you think there's 100% chance you won't get into a car accident if you go drive out? There's a chance you could die and get into a car accident, right? So then you can say, oh, I don't want to drive. Why? Because I can die in a car accident, so I'll stay home. And then someone else will say, do you know that people get robbed and they die more likely in their house? Oh no, should I not stay home because then I'll get robbed and then I can die? And then you go out and they'll say, but did you also know that you are 2 times more likely to kill yourself than to get killed by someone else? What would you do? You're gonna be like, where do I go? What do I do? Oh my gosh, like you can't do anything because everything is a risk. Every single thing. Even if you drive, you wouldn't go on the highway because the chances every 10 kilometers the speed limit goes up, there is a higher chance of you dying in a car accident. But people still do it. Everything's a risk. Everything is. Everything you can't avoid. You can't avoid it. Right? No matter what, something's going to happen. Right? There's always a risk of something happening. This is why you have to avoid the one thing you call in your head is the what if situation. Oh, what if this happens? Yeah, it's possible. What if this? It's possible. What if it is possible? And honestly, everything is possible. It's happened to someone, even though like they say the chance that you die in the coronavirus, you have a higher chance of getting hit by lightning, you have a higher chance of like getting killed by a shark. But it's possible. So you're like, don't go out, right? Don't meet. Yeah, it's like true. It's like, oh, but you have to realize everything is a risk. And you can't just not do anything just because there's some type of risk. There's a way to look at it, right? And you have to look at what is possible because risks are everywhere. But you have to look at what is a possible outcome. The possible outcome becomes a much greater thing. So if you look at Proverbs 14, verse 4. This is the last verse I'll show you today. Very interesting verse. It says, where there are no oxen, the manger is empty, but from the strength of an ox come abundant harvest. You know what that means? If you don't have an oxen, you never clean oxen poop. You never clean the manger. You never have to feed them straw. You don't have to buy straw. You don't have to do, there's so many things like, oh man, if I get an oxen, man, I might die from the oxen who might just mangle me, right? Oh, this oxen, it might eat me or whatever, right? It might trample me. Oh, the oxen, I have to feed it this much food. I have to spend this much money on the oxen. Oh my goodness, all the work of cleaning the poop with a shovel every 3-4 times a day. It's better for the no oxen and the manger is clean. But on the flip side, the strength of an ox comes an abundant harvest. There is a great benefit of having an oxen. That's why more farmers will have an oxen. They'll have a bull rather than not having it because the help is bigger than the actual risk. Right? And we have to realize this too. Just think about even like race car driving. You're driving at like 200, 300, 200 kilometers an hour. Do you know what the high risk of dying is? There's a high risk of dying, but they still do it. Because they make money, they feed their family, they become famous. There's just so many things that can happen with it. And we have to realize this too is there are risks in everything and there's always going to be a what if. And if you just keep looking at the negative parts, you'll never do anything. What we have to realize is what? We have to realize is that look at what is the possible benefit. And this is why people take the risk of love. Love is one of the biggest risks. Why do people risk it? Because the benefit is so much greater to be with that person. Okay? So I hope that you guys understood this today. 3 tips on taking charge. First thing, in your mind, you need to have a foundation. You need a base in your life, right? Something greater than what you're doing, right? So that when you lose that, if you do lose it, it's not going to be a big deal. It's not going to be as big a deal. Second thing is control what you can, which is only yourself. You got to control your thoughts in your heart. And the last one is you got to realize everything is a risk. There's going to be a negative to every single thing that you do, no matter what. However, you have to look at what is the possible greatness, what is the possible benefit we can get, and you have to look at that and kind of in a much, much bigger picture, like, wow, that would be great if we had that, more than anything else, okay? So I hope this helps you guys out so you understand how to take charge of your life a little bit better, that you'll just follow these 3 things. There's tons more things that you can look at, but I want to focus on these 3 things. All right, so this means what? Before we get to question and answer, if you are here for the first time, go ahead and click subscribe and the notification bell on the Espresso with Guide YouTube channel, because we have tons of videos. Like we said, this is the 34th Bubble Talk. Plus, we have Taco Tuesdays too. On top of it, those of you in Facebook, go click the like and then go over to YouTube and click the subscribe and smash that notification bell. You will be notified whenever we have new videos uploaded or when we go live. Also, those of you who want to support this ministry, we are on Patreon, so go ahead and click that and support us there. And every Saturday, 1 p.m., we have small group Bible lessons. If you want to go deeper into the words of God, just fill in the sign-up form and we'll email you the Zoom link, all right? So hope that everyone had a wonderful time today, just as I did. Get a sip of your drink, and we're going to begin the Q&A. All right, here we go. So let's go into the Q&A for today. Let's start off with the first question. It's from George in Singapore, and it says, if everything has a risk, then how do I decide which one to do? All right, so like I said before yes, everything has a risk. But you know, you're going to look at what the possible outcome is. If that possible outcome is that much, if it's worth it, if it's worth the risk, right? We're not sitting there trying to weigh the risk, right? What we're doing is we're looking at it, wow, if I do this, this is the benefit. Is it worth it or not? Is it worth it? Right? Like that's why for me, a lot of times, like for the small decisions, we don't really need to look at those things, right? But when it comes to the bigger decisions, you have to see, is it worth it for me to do this? Because it's just like that oxen. The manger's going to be dirty. There's a lot of junk that's going to happen. But, man, I think I really want this. And then you would go for something, right? So you have to look at the possible outcome more than a risk, because there's risks everywhere. There's always a risk no matter what, right? Driving, walking. Someone can kill you when you're walking. Isn't that possible? You get hit by a car when you're walking. Isn't it possible? Riding a bike, higher chance of getting hit by a car. Possible, right? So if you think about it, there's a risk for everything. So you want to look at the possible outcome, right? And look at that to see if that's something really worth it for you, okay? Thank you, George, for that question. Let's go over to Malaysia in Petaling Jaya. This is Janet, and she's asking, even though I control myself, I can't control others. Yeah, true. And what if things don't work out? What if things don't work out? Then I'll still be stuck. Okay. So this is a good question, because like we said before, there are things that are out of your control. And when they're out of your control, then things don't work out. And you're like, what? So I haven't done anything, then I didn't do anything wrong, and then they did something, and then now I'm stuck. It doesn't work anymore. So what do I do in that situation, right? So there's a couple things you can do, right? Number one is we could do what a lot of people do, is we can sulk and complain and say, oh, my life is terrible. Oh, why was life like this? Or what's the next thing we can do? The next thing you can do is you look at what can I do next? Like, what can I do next? Why? Because it's out of your control. So if it's out of your control and it doesn't work, it's actually not even your fault. Like, it's out of your control. Like, say, for instance, your company closes, totally out of your control. The company closes, out of your control, and then what do you do next? You're like, my company. Like, you can cry about it, but what we have to do is, it's up here. Control what we can control, which means that I've lost my job. It's not even my fault. And sometimes it could be your fault. But let's just say it's not even your fault, or it could be your fault. So what do you do next? Get your resumes ready. Start looking for another job. Look for something that's better. Right? Say, you know what? There might be a better job out there then. If this company was already on the brink of closing down, then I could have lost my job. Even if it continued, I could have lost it further. Like somewhere down the road, I might have lost it again. Maybe it wasn't run well. I got to find a better place to work. Right? What has to happen next is, when you control what you can control, then the mentality, the mindset is, you got to get it done. Doesn't work, you got to find a way. If that doesn't work, you have to find another way. Because in the end, if you realize it's out of your control, you can't do anything about it. Which means that regardless if you cry, even if you cry for 35,000 days, it's not going to change anything. And that's why, what do we have to do? You have to control what you are able to control. Other things, what can you do, really? Right? You can't really do much with that anyways, right? So at that point, Janet, yes, there are things that are not going to work out, but the thing you have to figure out to yourself is, well, what can I change? What can I do next? Yeah, I like this job. I was like this, but maybe it's time for me to do something different. Maybe it's time for me to try something new, something better. Maybe there's a better job out there, right? And you have to kind of change and control what you can, which is, remember, in your thoughts. From your thoughts, all your actions come out. And if your thoughts are very, very complaining and negative, then your actions are going to be very dark and depressed. What do you have to do? Control it up here, and then take the next step. What do I got to do next? Okay? Oh, man. Or, take the vacation you always wanted. Take your vacation, then come back and start something new. All right. So let's go on to the next question. Let's see. Next question is Altan Bagana. Where are you from? Altan Bagana. Altan Bagana. Is that one name or is that one name or two names? Okay, Altan Bagana. Okay. I could be Altan space Bagana, which could be Filipino. I don't know. Okay. Altan Bagana asks, even though I control myself, I can't control others. What if things don't work out? No, this is the same question. The question is, is there a way to taking change of my life? Is there a way to take charge of my life with a low budget? And yes, because taking charge of your mind or taking charge of your life has nothing to do with money, right? Because then you got to think about this. The assumption we have is that if I cannot take charge of my life because I have a low budget or don't have enough money, is assuming that taking charge of your life is the primary source of taking charge of your life is money, which is false. It is false. Because there are people with lots of money who are not in charge of their life, who are doing things they don't want to do, who are unhappy, who feel depressed, or they feel suicidal, or they feel that they're not doing what they really want to do, right? It's not the money. The budget part's not it. Remember, the thing that we're working on right now is up here, right? Taking control of your life has to start with up here more than anything else. Because you can be rich and do so many great things, but if you're not in control up here, you're always going to be like, oh gosh, why am I doing this? Why do I let myself do this? Why do I let myself do that? We have to be those that first have to control everything up here. The low budget, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Low budget is fine. Having a low budget, it doesn't mean that you're not in charge of your life. No, it's about up here first, right? Control what you can control. Which means that whatever budget you have, you live your life within your means, right? And you choose what you want, and you choose what you don't want to do, or you choose what you sacrifice also. You might think to yourself is only people with low budgets have to sacrifice not buying things. No, every budget does. Every budget does, right? No matter what, put it this way, in every budget class, there's always something they want, but they can never get with their budget, always. Which means that they're all in the same position, right? So don't worry about the low budget shouldn't be the primary source, right? Being in control of your life first starts with your heart and your mind, right? How positive are you? What is your attitude? How much effort you put into these different things? And how you react to situations. Because can you imagine even if you were rich, that every little problem that happened, you're like, oh, I'm so anxious. Oh, I'm so worried. Can you imagine what kind of life that would be? You would not be in charge. Would you say that, like Altan Bagana? Would you say someone's in charge of their life, that every little problem that happens, they're freaking out? You'd be like, no, this person's not in charge of their life. It doesn't matter how much money they make, right? So you have to look at it and say, I got to take charge of my life, and take charge of my heart, and take charge of my mind. Take that first. And then from there, you're able to take it step by step, right? And people who actually take care or are in charge of their lives really well, doesn't matter what level they reach in their budget, they're going to always keep that every single time as they move up, all right? Altan Bagana, great question, awesome. All right, let's go over to Chris in New Zealand. Chris Kurisu in New Zealand is asking, what is a good counter against gut instinct when sometimes gut instincts are wrong? Well, it's okay to be wrong sometimes, because sometimes your gut is right. We have intuition sometimes too. And what my main thing would be is to develop your intuition really well, so that you're right more often than not. Because I know, even for myself, there are times when I know, I should do this, but then I'm really not sure about it, but then I just jump into it. I've had that before. Right? And I'm sure, Chris, you've had that before. You have this instinct like, I should do it, but you're not as sure as you were before. You're like, I don't know. And in those times, I would say almost in all times, you should always be thinking about all things, including your instinct, right? And you, if anything else, be comfortable with the decision you make. Because once you're comfortable with it, you made that decision, and you got to own up to whether it's right or wrong. It's like, oh man, you know, I thought I went by instinct and it didn't work out. Oh, I'm really sorry about that. Yeah, if you're, you know, but don't base your gut instinct or how good you should feel by whether the gut instinct was right or wrong. It is you choosing to do the gut instinct or not. That's the thing that's most important, is whether you chose it. You consciously choose to go with your gut instinct. If it doesn't work, you got to own up to it and say, oh man, you know, I decided to do it like this because I really felt that this was the right thing to do. It wasn't right. I'm very sorry about this. Right? But don't let yourself be guided by, oh, it was wrong, so I'm just a terrible person. No, choose. Consciously choose which one you want. When you choose it, whether it's right or wrong, it's yours. If it's wrong, own it. If it's right, thank God, right? It's a great thing. But more than anything else, you gotta own it. Don't be like, oh, I wasn't sure, so I just jumped into it. And then people are like, why would you do that? That's crazy. But instead, it's like, you know what? I had two choices, and I really thought this. I really felt my gut telling me I should do it like this, so I did it this way. It was wrong. I'm sorry, but that's the one I chose. So you know, this is my fault. Just gotta own up to it. But be deliberate and conscious with the choice that you make. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. But the one thing you can be controlling yourself is you being responsible and owning up to it. All right? I hope that makes sense to you. Which means, let's go into today's bubble tea giveaway. And this one, you better write it fast because I have a number right here and you guys have to do this quickly as possible. Today's question is, which president recently caught the coronavirus? Write it down as quickly as possible. You need to write it down quickly. Which president most recently caught the coronavirus? Cool. All right. So let's move into the next question of the day. While you guys are writing those questions down, we'll move into the next question of the day. So a question is coming from Karen in KL. Karen in KL. All right. Karen in KL writes, if everything is a risk, is it better to choose the same but safer path than go for something different? And the answer with this is, well, you have to think about, if you look at the possibility, there is always a safer way. There's always a safer way, right? The safer way is safer because there's a less chance. But what we know for certain is the safest way does not always yield the most wanted results. And this is why people take risks. That's why people gamble, right? People go to casino because there's a big chance I can win something so big in a short amount of time, and that's why people will do it, right? Or there's something that you want so badly, more than anything else, and that's why you'll put more effort into it, and that's why you'll do something, and you'll consciously go on a path that's even harder in life. Why? Because you want it so badly. And like the example I gave Karen was love too. People go through crazy stuff for love, like crazy things. Why? Because the possible outcome it means so much more to them. And a lot of people would rather take that risk than miss out on it, right? So everything is a risk. Some are higher risk, some are low risk, but you look at the possibility in the end, and what is it that you really want, and what's it worth to you, right? What is it really worth to you? Because think about this. You can't always take the safest risk. You know why? You know why? Let me give you a situation where you can't take the safest risk. Is your child has like liver failure, and your liver is the only one that matches. So if you play the safest way, you're not going to give up your liver. No, gotta play it safe. Not for my kid, right? But a lot of times, what will people do? People will take that risk because that possibility is worth it to them, even if there's a high chance of dying, right? And that's why, you know, there are some things you can play it safe. It's not going to make a big difference in your life. But there are some things that you look and you value so much, and you have to look at those possibilities and say, well, is that worth the risk? And the answer is sometimes it is. Sometimes it really is. Because when we're talking about these risks in life, we're talking about those monumental decisions we have, right? That changes our paths, right? And this is what separates those that become very successful or they are content that they at least tried for what they really wanted in life, and they're never looking back at it, right? So it's everything is a risk. Is it better to choose the same path? Not always. Not always. Yeah, sometimes it's good to take the safe path. It is good, right? Because just some things aren't worth it, right? Just some things aren't. Should I go to this big event where no one's wearing a mask and there's 30,000 people in a 1,000 square foot room and we're just breathing on each other? Probably not, right? It's like, it's not worth the risk. Like, why would you be there anyways, right? So you want to take a look at, that's why you're looking at one situation at a time, separate from the other. It's very, very different, right? But is it always good to take the safer path? No, not really. There's the last thing that people want is like that regret of all regrets, like, oh, I should have done this, I should have tried, right? So, yeah. So it's something you have to look at from situation to situation. And I believe there's a last question of the day. One more question? One more question today. It is, a couple more questions. Next question is Jennifer in the Philippines. Why is it I keep on thinking about something? Because my habit of overthinking before, I don't have much control or grip to things. Well, I'm okay now. Okay. What? Hold on a second. You're okay now? Jennifer, wait a second. You keep on thinking about something. You had a habit of overthinking before. You don't have much control or grip to things, but you're okay now. Am I supposed to answer the question, or I'm a little bit confused? Well, let's put it this way. Why do you keep on thinking about something? Well, you keep thinking about it because you keep thinking about it, which means you've never made a decision, right? And one of the hard parts with people who are very, very indecisive is they're always thinking constantly, like, I've done this before. After you buy something, you still look to see if something's cheaper out on the internet. You just keep checking more and more. It's kind of crazy, right? But you've already bought it and you're not going to change it, right? So, this is something where a lot of people do overthinking. Yes, and it's kind of a normal thing, not a normal thing, but it's something that we do have to get used to, making a decision and being happy with that decision. Like, it doesn't matter. If it goes cheaper, like 60 days later, it doesn't really matter, right? Because wouldn't you rather have it 60 days earlier than save like $30 2 months later? It doesn't really make any sense, right? It is what it is, right? If you have a chance to change it, go ahead and change it. If you can't, big deal. Right? You move forward. A lot of times we kind of look at things bigger than they really are. Right? You just got to control yourself. If you overthink, sometimes you can overthink and not be bothered by it. It's like, oh yeah, oh, I wish I had that. Oh, poo. And then you move on. Yeah. But Jennifer, thank you for the question and non-question at the same time. Or was it that I fixed the question before you even asked that now you're okay? I'm not sure. But I'm hoping that's it. I'm okay now. Okay. Let's go to the last question of the day. Jean Lim, where are you, Jean? I'm going to guess Malaysia. I don't know, but I'm guessing Malaysia. Okay. So let's take a look at Jean in Malaysia, and let's see. Jean in Malaysia. Oh, I don't even know if you're Malaysian. How to change or control negative thoughts step by step, like self-doubt. Okay, so when you think about self-doubt and negative thoughts, the reason why you keep getting more and more negative is because you keep saying and thinking negative things over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? So the more you say it, the more deeper you get into it, right? It's almost the same when you're talking to people sometimes. When you complain, what happens when you complain? They start complaining, then they start complaining, then they start complaining, and then it becomes like this complain fest. Like, oh my gosh, like, did you happen? And then everyone just starts complaining, right? And the complaint just goes crazy. Right? So the one thing you have to understand is negativity breeds negativity. Self-doubt breeds more self-doubt. Which means on the flip side is positivity also breeds more positivity. And if there's a really, really good exercise for you is whenever you start thinking negative things, I know thinking negative things is very easy because your mind is like a deep pit that's never ending, and you can just start thinking and go put yourself into a really big black hole, right? The way to get out of it is the moment you start thinking this, right away start saying with your lips, positive things. I'm serious. One of the things they've shown in science has proven, research has shown that do you know why self-motivation works? When you're like, come on, you can do it. And then people start working out harder and you can pump yourself up. The reason is your brain cannot your brain cannot decipher whether those words come from yourself or someone else. Your brain can't. It can't discern between the two, and that's why you're able to pump yourself up like, come on, you can do it, right? And that's why speak out loud to yourself. Your mind is a bottomless pit. It'll just keep going deeper and deeper. You'll keep digging. What you need to do with your lips, I'm telling you right now, the moment you say it, you got to say, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'm better than this. No, it's not that big of a deal. It's not big of a deal. And what's going to happen is when you say it with your lips, your brain hears it and it doesn't even know it's coming from yourself. And this is why your brain, or you're able to self-motivate, right? That's one of the interesting things about the human body is you can self-motivate. You don't have anyone telling you, just do it to yourself. And Gene, in those times when you do get kind of negative, it's usually up here. You're not usually like this. Hey man, what's wrong with you? Oh, you're so stupid. No, it's all in your head. But I'm telling you, out loud, start speaking positive things. No, it's okay. No, it's okay. No, it's okay. It's better. No, I'm better than this. And then call someone. Call someone and say, hey, this is what happened today, but you know what? I think I'm better than this. And what you've done is you have shown someone that there's a problem, and then now you're telling them that you're positive. And what happens is these people will actually start to give you more positivity. Say, yeah, you're right. You can do this. Don't worry about it. And then when someone else tells you too, you feel even better and you're more positive about it. So my first exercise for you is speak out loud positive and good thoughts, right? That's part of Proverbs 4:23 is guard your heart. Your heart's the wellspring of life. Wherever your heart is, whether it's negative or positive, it's going to show out in your body also. Okay? I hope that really helps you out. Gene, thank you so much for these awesome questions, everyone. That was the last question for today. Thank you so much for joining us here for Taking Charge of Your Life on today's Bubble Talk 34. Everyone have an amazing and wonderful day, and we'll see you guys again. Oh, wait. We need the winners. The winners of the bubble tea. What's the number today? Oh, here it is. Today's number, the winner is going to be... Pow! Number 8, my favorite number. Number 8, the winners are Joanne Lai on Facebook and Yimla on YouTube. Okay, I'm not sure Yimla is. Who is that? Is that Yongmin? I have no idea. Yimla on YouTube. And Joanne, you can both contact us on espressowithsky@gmail.com. Make sure you send us your pictures of you and your bubble tea. All right, everyone, have an amazing and wonderful day, and we'll see you guys again. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Sacrifice my life for you. Every day doing so much to show that I love you. True love only needs one thing, a loving heart. But sometimes I feel we're just falling apart. I live never forgetting you from the bottom of my heart. I expected the same for you, but you ripped it apart. I've been through it, hell and back, and you realize that much. I'm thinking about you constantly without ever giving up. I'm sitting next to you waiting just to hear your voice. My heart pounds, the pin drops, but I only hear my voice. When will you realize how much I've actually really done? I saved you and forgave you for everything that you have done. So never forget the value. Do with all your effort, become one in body and thoughts, taking action together, living a life without leaving me out no matter what. True love means you will work hard to get there no matter what. What happened to our love? Started out great. We used to be together. Now look at us. Just do a little more. We used to be one. Stop saying all these things. Now it feels so hard to connect with you. Trying so hard to feel when I'm losing you, but now you shouldn't be asking yourself. I know you said sorry about a million times, but I'd rather you do what's right so we won't waste time. You're losing the value, I see you starting to wonder why. It's that you're starting to leave me out of your daily life. It must be continuous like the earth that's spinning without rest. It's easy to love in the instant and give your very best. It's hard to do it continually, giving all your life. But true love means you need to make a sacrifice. You must have conviction to never